Hello there guys, it's Joey. So this is going to be the first video in the Promised Healing mini-series, I guess. I'm not sure how many videos this will end up being at the minute, and I have some very definite ideas about where to start, where we're going in the next one and on from there, but how many videos I'm not sure yet. Basically until it feels that the cycle of the healing videos has really served its purpose, I think. So the first video that I wanted to make is healing and divination. And I wanted to do this because the whole point of these videos is to help me and others in the process of healing, and this can be a really vast subject. It can be a really diversified subject, and it seems like the most logical place to start, for me anyway, would be in terms of divining all aspects about what you are looking at within yourself in terms of what healing is needed. Now, what I mean by this is we quite frequently turn to our divinational tools when we are looking at questions of the future and we're feeling a bit confused, a bit lost, we're seeking answers. And some people definitely will do this already, but it really does help to use your divinational cards in all sorts of ways as a sort of precursor to spell work, magic work, meditation work, physical work, etc. And at that point I am going to point out right here and now that this is a mini-series on the metaphysical or magical or spiritual side of aiding self-healing, and is by no means to be taken instead of physical care. It is meant to be done alongside physical care, and by which that's as diverse as you like, you know, going to the doctors when you have symptoms, seeking therapy if that's what is required, and so on and so forth, alongside other forms of healing medicines, herbal remedies, home remedies, things of that nature. So why are we looking at divination at first? Well, because divination can give us insight into the very many problems that are arising from what needs healing. And this can be an emotional issue, it can be a physical issue, it can be a mental issue, it can be a combination of all of them. And the thing about healing, and when you're starting off, is you can feel quite overwhelmed and not quite sure where certain things are coming from, because things tend to snowball. Emotional things get in the way, they trigger stress. Stress can trigger all sorts of terrible things: weight gain, weight loss, hair loss, terrible skin, bad eating habits, which then lead to digestive problems. All sorts of things are interconnected. And the first thing you need to do is probably decide which area you're going to be focusing on first. And I picked cards, specific cards out of the Wild Unknown Tarot deck, because they really represent a certain aspect of healing which I think is worth noting right here. You were going to pick the divinational tool that you feel most comfortable with, or that you feel will give you the best answer in terms of what issues are actually getting to me that maybe I'm not considering myself. And you're going to pick, say, your tarot deck or your oracle deck, dependent on the sort of things that you feel are possibly what are causing illness. Now, by which I mean, the Wild Unknown is a little bit of a darker deck. It's a little bit more primal in feeling. And that sort of, to me, indicates things that are having a negative mental effect, a negative emotional effect, perhaps some shadow work that needs to be done and continued, things within myself that I need to address and align and balance. And I could have gone with a lighter deck. For the Shadowscapes deck, probably would have been more about the physical illness side of things, rather than the sort of more mental and emotional things. But I think mental and emotional energies, for me, tend to push physical illness. So I know that if I suffer with a bout of depression, that will knock-on effect me having physical illness, and if I get very, very stressed, I get very, very physically ill as well. And I picked specific cards out on purpose. These are not my healing reading, but I picked out specific cards which sort of denote ideas of things which can have an effect on our mental and emotional illness in particular. And so you've got things like, this is about nightmares. This is the Nine of Swords, and the traditional idea of it's a little bit like mental attack, perhaps mental attack on yourself, and you're panicked and you're worrying and you're seeing the worst case scenario and everything. You're having nightmares, perhaps actual nightmares, and perhaps let's take that as a thing. So you're having nightmares as a symptom, and you want to really delve into what it is that's causing all this mental anguish and start the healing process. And you're feeling a bit lost and a bit overwhelmed because you just keep having nightmares and don't know where to go with it from there. And divination is, of course, a really, really great way of feeling out the messages from the spirit realm, from spirituality, from the divine, however you want to see it, and looking for the synchronicities about what you are being told is what you need to address. So that was a really great card. And then I picked another card, and it could be an indicator of someone else having an effect on your emotional or mental well-being. And the Son of Wands is traditionally a younger male. And that I just picked out one card which could represent sort of like a physical person. And these are all just abstract ideas to give you an idea about what I'm talking about when I'm talking about doing a divinational reading for healing. And then there's the Death card, which has a multitude of meanings, of course. It could be that you are in fact mourning a loss of a loved one. It could be a huge abrupt change within your life that has caused all sorts of unforeseen complications in terms of health and well-being in general. And then on the end is the Three of Swords, which tends to be a sort of emotional betrayal of the heart. It tends to be, traditionally, it's pulled up as being cheated on card, or it has a multitude of other meanings depending on its position in the reading and things of that nature. But it's sort of, the traditional picture is a heart with three blades thrust into it, which is, you know, the bleeding heart and things. This card is bleeding as well. There's it actually has quite a heart-shaped symbolism within the red bonds, but a more physical heart rather than the symbolic heart that's usually found. But there you go. We're not going to go into the cards too much because they're just literally things that I grabbed as a possible reading. And, you know, if this was somebody's reading, this could be symptomatic of the illness, mental anguish, nightmares, things, because a young male of the situation is the cause, the problem, and this caused a huge change in life because of a betrayal. And that could be, for example, somebody's reading, and this is the issue, the health issue that's caused it. This is sorry, this is the health issue which has caused the person to seek healing, and then this is the sort of factors that are going on. That's just an example, it's nothing real, it's just that I picked these cards out and thought, right, that would make a good example. So I also have a labradorite crystal here. You may or may not wish to try divining with crystals, or pick a crystal in particular to see through the healing process, dependent on your reading. Now, I personally would go for tarot or Ogham, stretch oracle cards. If you're thinking it's a little bit too complicated at the present point to have a tarot reading, you're feeling very messed up by what's going on, or you know, oracle might provide a much easier insight, like one oracle card. I'd also suggest, if you're reading tarot, that you pick 3 to 4 cards. 3 being quite cyclic in nature, life, death and rebirth, and of course that sort of covers the idea of healing as well. You want to, you know, put a death to the things that are causing the illness and things, and allow a rebirth to get past that, and then into life energy and get back on the process of healing. Or you can pick 4 in terms of balance. It's 4 is much more of the limbs and the elements, at least the card without spirit, you being the spirit within that. So there would be 4, earth, air, fire, water, and then you'd be the spirit within your reading. But yeah, but that means it's also not too complicated in terms of a tarot reading. You can get to the meat of what you need to know without there being too much of a story going on, because you need to be told in terms of messages from the divine, in terms of, right, what is it that I, at least at first, the first thing, because it can be multi-layered, need to address. And this tarot reading or oracle reading, or whichever you choose, but this is how I would do it, and it's my healing series, so it just gives you a sharp shock look at what it is that you need to address in terms of healing energies. Where are we going with this? What am I focusing on first? So yeah, that is the first notion on. It's not a terribly long video, it's not a terribly complicated video, but it's sort of setting up for everything else. So rather than us going straight into the healing stuff and being like, but where do I figure out what it is that I'm healing, this is how we get into it. It's like the introductory way into the healing mini-series. I hope that makes sense. So that's going to be it for this video, at least, and there should be some more soon, tomorrow hopefully. Many blessings.